When the storms of life rise suddenly and violently, it is easy to believe that you are standing alone in the middle of chaos. But God never allows a storm to roar without first releasing His presence into the situation. Before you break, before your faith begins to shake, God speaks into your spirit. His voice reaches into the very places where fear tries to grow, and He reminds you that no storm is stronger than His authority. Even when everything around you looks uncertain and unstable, God is already at work calming the waves inside your heart. Life will always bring moments where you feel overwhelmed, but God's voice brings strength before you collapse, clarity before you lose direction, and peace before panic takes over. His whisper carries the power to steady your spirit when the wind and waves try to drown your hope. He doesn't need to shout to prove He is with you. His gentle presence is enough to silence every fear. The moment God enters the storm, it begins to lose control over your life. Every storm has a purpose, even when you cannot see it. Sometimes the chaos is not meant to destroy you, but to reveal your dependence on God. When life feels like it is falling apart, your plans collapsing, relationships shaking, your mind becoming heavy, God's voice cuts through the confusion. He brings order where everything feels scattered, and He brings direction where everything feels lost. Storms test your ability, but they also reveal God's stability. They show you what you cannot handle alone, but what God can handle effortlessly. His presence transforms fear into courage and uncertainty into trust. When you surrender the storm to Him, you begin to see that what felt like an ending was actually an invitation to experience His power in a deeper way. Chaos may surround you, but God's peace can fill you, and that peace becomes the shield that protects you from the weight of everything happening around you. There is always noise competing for your attention, fearful thoughts, negative voices, doubts, old memories of failure, and the world's pressure telling you that you will not make it. But miracles begin when you choose to listen to God's voice above all the noise. When Peter stepped out of the boat, the waves were still crashing, the wind was still blowing, but he walked on water because he trusted Jesus' voice more than he trusted the storm. In your life, too, the moment you choose faith over fear, obedience over doubt, and surrender over control, the supernatural begins. Doors open that you could not open on your own. Strength appears in situations where you felt empty. Peace enters places that were once filled with anxiety. God's voice does not just bring comfort, it brings transformation. It turns fear into boldness, uncertainty into confidence, and weakness into supernatural courage. You begin to realize that the storm was never your enemy. Your real battle was learning to trust the one who commands the storm. When you trust God's voice, you begin to experience moments where everything suddenly shifts. What seemed impossible becomes possible. What felt heavy becomes light. What looked hopeless becomes filled with new purpose. And in those moments, you understand that God was never silent. He was preparing you. Every storm you faced was shaping your character, strengthening your faith, and pulling you closer to Him. The enemy wants storms to break you, but God uses storms to build you. He uses them to remove distractions, deepen your faith, sharpen your vision, and reconnect you to His presence. Your battle becomes your testimony. Your struggle becomes your strength. Your storm becomes the platform for your miracle. After the storm passes, God reveals what the enemy tried so hard to hide. The peace that comes after a storm is not the same as the peace you had before it. It is deeper, stronger, and unshakable. You begin to see blessings that you couldn't see when fear was clouding your vision. You see opportunities, open doors, restored hope, and renewed purpose. You realize that God used the storm to guide you into something greater. Sometimes the storm was the only way to move you from where you were to where God needed you to be. It was the only way to break unhealthy cycles, remove harmful people, redirect your steps, and build your spiritual strength. You may not have understood the storm while you were inside it, but when God quiets the waves, clarity arrives. You understand why things had to shift, why certain doors closed, why certain people left, and why God allowed you to walk through difficult seasons. And then something powerful happens. Your faith becomes unshakable. You begin to trust God on a deeper level because you know firsthand how He carried you through what you thought you would never survive. You stop fearing storms because you have seen how God speaks into them. You stop doubting His presence because you have seen how He works in silence. You stop questioning His plan because you have witnessed how He turns chaos into peace and pain into purpose. What felt like a breaking season becomes the most defining season of your spiritual journey. And that is when this happens, you realize the storm didn't defeat you. It transformed you. It awakened courage, built faith, and strengthened your relationship with God. You come out of the storm wiser, stronger, and more rooted in His presence. God never promised a life without storms, but He promised that no storm would ever have the final word. His voice still carries the power to quiet winds and calm waves. His authority remains the same as the day He said, "Peace, be still." And when He speaks into your situation today, the storm that once terrified you will bow in silence. The same God who calmed the sea can calm your heart. The same God who rescued His people can rescue you. The same God who walked through fire with His children will walk through this storm with you. All He asks is that you trust Him, listen to Him, and allow His voice to lead you through the chaos. When you let God's voice quiet every storm, you do not just survive, you overcome. You rise, you heal, you grow. You discover who you are in Him and who He is within you. And when the next storm comes, you will no longer fear it, because you will remember the last time the storm tried to destroy you, God stepped in, and everything changed.